It says we're live. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this first session of what I'm calling Dream with Len. And I can't tell you how excited I am to have so many people piling on this morning and showing up. And you know, for those of us who do these kinds of things, let this be an example. I've been him-hawing and playing with this idea for a long time. And I kept thinking, no one's going to be interested in. Nobody wants to come to a webinar on Saturday morning. And that may be true. You know, maybe you don't want to be here on Saturday morning, but you're here, and I'm really excited. I think you're going to find that this is going to be a really fun experience. And let me just go ahead. I have Bill over here just to be my eyes and ears, as you know, that when we're on a webinar with PowerPoint, I can't see. As far as I know, you may not be able to see or hear a thing, and so I don't want that to happen. I'm going to jump in and get started pretty quick because we have a lot to cover, and I promised you we're going to try to keep this to a half hour. There may be a couple times we run past that. Today shouldn't be one of them. Let's just jump in and get going. Let's see. Let's not do that. I have to go to screen share. Screen share. Bill, you can see my screen, I hope.
Yes.
Good morning, Larry. Here goes the PowerPoint. You can see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Cool. And everybody can hear me. Cool. All right. First off, let me tell you a little bit about the background here, and that is that I'm personally really enthralled with a lot of the material that I want to share with you. I've probably read 25, 30, maybe more books on the topic, and then not just the topic of law of attraction, but a lot of the different areas, and we're going to touch on some of them. There's some rabbit holes here that are really pretty deep and a lot of fun, and we're not going to go down those today. But nevertheless, what you're going to see here, I'm not going to take credit. I can't take credit for anything that's going to happen over the today, next week, next month, or however long this is going to run. There's no end in sight as far as I can tell right now. But what I'm doing is I'm bringing to you a compilation from many of the greatest authors of our time. People like Jack Canfield, Wayne Dyer, Napoleon Hill, Catherine Ponder, John Kehoe, Joe Vitale, Susan Shearer Young, Jeanette Maw, and many, many more that I didn't put on this list. And I will put up a list of recommended reading, because one of the first questions people are going to ask is, well, you know, what do you recommend? And the answer to that is it really depends on where you are and what you want to learn about. I don't know. If you're new to law of attraction, or reasonably new to it, one of the simplest, easiest books to read on the topic is Susan Shearer Young's book, How to Allow. And in an unabashed advertisement, I'm going to tell you that Susan will be on Lunch with Len on Thursday this week at 11:30. So for those of you who don't normally come to Lunch with Len, this would be an ideal time to get to know Susan and to know her book. I will publish a list of recommended reading, and I actually already have a list, but I want to update it and put a few more things on it, and then I'll publish it. For the time being, I'm going to use the Lunch with Len group, and the reason is really quite simple and pragmatic. I don't want to make another group and have to monitor another group, and unless this webinar gets big enough that it really warrants its own separate group. Right now, just about everybody who's here, and I think everybody who's here is in the Lunch with Len group. So if I post in that group, you can find the stuff. And if you're not in the Lunch with Len group, join it. It's okay. It's not a big deal. I already put up a new file in that group today, and I'll talk to you about that in just a little bit. So that's really all there is in terms of housekeeping. I am not going to spend any time today telling you about me. Everybody who's on here knows who I am. And again, I'm going to tell you that I didn't create any of this material. I'm just compiling it. I'm the scribe, and I've compiled it in such a way that you've never seen it before, and compiled it from some of the best sources available on the planet. I'm going to tell you that some of the concepts we're going to talk about are thousands of years old. These aren't new. They've been around for many, many, many centuries, and I'll touch on some of that when it's appropriate. So let's go. Let's get started. Now, we're going to read this one really slow. There's depth to this paragraph that, well, it's deep. There's a level of awareness available to you that you are probably unfamiliar with. It extends upward and transcends the ordinary level of consciousness that you're most accustomed to. At this higher plane of existence, which you and every human being who has ever lived can access at will, the fulfillment of wishes is not only probable, it is guaranteed. That's a direct quote from Wayne Dyer's book, Wishes Fulfilled. By the way, one of the reasons I use PowerPoint a lot is that many different people have different learning styles. Imagine me reading that paragraph to you without you being able to see it. You couldn't assimilate it. You probably can't assimilate it now. So we're going to touch on some topics as the weeks go by that are pretty esoteric, pretty interesting. But all of the topics are going to lead us in the same direction. How to manifest the life of our dreams, how to get what we want out of life, how to get the universe to cough it up, give it to us, and why, and what we're going to really focus in on today for the most part is what stops us from being able to make the law of attraction work for us. Because some people will tell you the law of attraction doesn't work. I tried that stuff, it doesn't work. For those of you who saw my video this morning, a lot of people will tell you that network marketing doesn't work either, but those of us who are here today know that that's not the truth. And many of us know that the law of attraction works too. So what stops people? Let me first tell you why I'm doing this, just a little bit deeper into why I'm doing this personally. And here's 3 different quotes from Napoleon Hill. And I want to come back to this in a moment for you too, but from Napoleon Hill, there's one distinguishing characteristic of those who live life at a higher level with a richness that's not just about monetary gain. These unique and rare individuals have a burning desire to succeed. Now, Napoleon Hill wrote that, close to 100 years ago, 60, 70 years ago, I don't know when. And his opinion then was that the ability to do what we're going to start to look at today was limited to rare individuals having a burning desire. Today, we don't agree with that. Every person on this call, every person on this webinar has the ability to do these things. This is not unique, and these are not rare individuals. It's a rare individual who have tapped into this capability and learned how to manipulate it and use it. But it's there and it's available. As the preceding paragraph said on the first page, it is there and it is available to everyone. A burning desire, again from Napoleon Hill, a burning desire once ignited never goes out. And one of the reasons I'm sitting here in front of my computer at 8:30 on a Saturday morning, just like you, is I have a real, I'm going to call it a burning desire to put this material that I've learned for me in front of a broader audience, you, to bring it to you. And I hope in the process of doing that you get something out of it. I hope you get a lot out of it. From Wayne Dyer, an inner knowing along with a burning desire is the prerequisite for becoming a person capable of manifesting his or her heart's desire. Notice the words "an inner knowing." We're going to focus in on those words several different times, several different ways in the next couple or 3 weeks. It's often been said that you need a why. You need a why that makes you cry. It's been said that you need a vision. You have to believe. It's been said that if you can conceive it and believe it, you can achieve it. It takes more than just believing it. It takes an inner knowing. It takes a step past believing. It's not just believing that you can do something. It's knowing beyond any shadow of a doubt that you can do it, and not letting anything get in your way. I want to circle back up to the first paragraph. The words in there, richness, that's not just about monetary gain. If your focus is on monetary gain, if your focus is on money, the chances of you succeeding are slim to none. If you're focused on money, it means you are focused on the lack of, and that is what you will continue to manifest more of. Let me say that again. If you're focused on money, you will continue to manifest lack of money, because that is really what you're focused on. So where is the focus? The focus is on that burning desire to live life at a higher level. It's on a burning desire to bring your gifts to the world. It's on a burning desire to help other people succeed. It's on a burning desire to publish your book, to write your symphony, to produce the thing that you're capable of, and to live life at a higher level than a 9-to-5 job in a rat race in a traffic jam. There are some fundamental laws that we got to work with. Certain laws in the universe that are intractable, such as the law of gravity. Now, you don't question the law of gravity. We all understand that it works. But then let me remind you that from the day you were born, no one ever questioned the law of gravity. No one challenged it. Consider for a moment, just think this one through for just a moment. Let's pretend that you had a family, a set of parents that did something that we would consider to be child abuse. They wouldn't let you out of the house. You couldn't go out the back door. And they told you repeatedly, hundreds, thousands of times, don't step out that door. You might float off the planet. That's not for people like us. People like us don't do things like that. We don't go there. That's for other people. It's not for us. Now, imagine if you were confined and told hundreds, thousands of times that you can't go out the door, you might float off the planet. You'd believe it. Even as an adult, you would stand at that door and you would stare out the door and you would see other people doing it, but you would be afraid. You wouldn't step through that door. But we all know gravity works. And nobody told us it doesn't. It's an invisible force. You can't see it, but we know it's there. Now, let's go back to those parents that told you it doesn't work, it's for other people, and you have this fear. But finally, you overcome the fear, and you step out the door, and you find out, whoa, I didn't float off Earth. That's good. Now you walk to the Grand Canyon, and you step off because no one told you how gravity works. And suddenly you find that gravity hurts. It's working against you. This analogy is absolutely true in the law of attraction. The law of attraction is always working. It's an irrefutable law. You can't get rid of it. It exists. And it can either help you or it can hurt you. The problem is, why do we struggle so much to get the law of attraction to work for our benefit? It's because we've been trained from birth to not use it or to trust it. You've been told over and over and over again that it doesn't work in many different ways. When did you take a course in creative visualization in school? Was that course in grade school or high school or college? Do you have a PhD in a topic? And one of the courses you took as a prerequisite was creative visualization, how to form the life of your dreams and desires? Did anybody ever teach you how to do that? No. We were programmed into negative thinking from the moment we came into the world. We popped out of the womb. And near the first word we heard was, no, don't do that. We were told from the beginning that things don't work. By the time you reach the age of 18, you've heard the word no 200,000 times, probably more these days. You've seen over 30,000 acts of violence. This statement comes from a book that quite frankly, I should have the source here and I don't remember it. But but it was written several years back, and I'm sure that the number of acts of violence has increased. It's probably a lot more these days. It seems to me like we see 30,000 acts of violence on Facebook every day alone. You receive more than 12 million messages in the form of advertising telling you how to look, what to eat, how to feel, what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to wear. Girls have been taught that if they don't wear the right clothes, the right makeup, the right jewelry, the right this, the right that, then no one's going to like them. Your early programming said, don't do that. You can't go there. We don't do things like that. That's for other people, the WAPs, the niggers, the Dagos, the Irish. By the way, I'm Irish. And I hope you realize that this is a sarcastic quote. It is in fact, almost a quote. It's what I heard growing up. Put yourself into this equation somewhere. Step into it somewhere. What did you hear growing up? Did somebody tell you that you can have, do, and be anything you want when you were 1 year old or 2 year old or 3 or 4 or 5? Go back to when you were learning how to walk. Consider the following. When you fell, nobody told you, that's a dumb idea. Don't do that. You might get hurt. No, they encouraged you to stand up and try again. And you learned to walk. Against all odds, you learned to walk. But yet as adults, we have so much fear of all the other things we've been told that we're afraid to step up. We were told, go to school, grow up, act like a man, become something important, get an education, get a job. Or if you're a woman, you were told, act like a woman, act like a lady, act your age. One of my favorite ones. Do what you're told, stand in line, don't make waves, behave yourself. You know, I'm going water skiing next month, and I can hear my mother now rolling over in her grave yelling, act your age. I don't know what that meant. But this, if you look at this compilation of our early programming, this is what we have to overcome to step out of that metaphorical door. Most of us, without realizing it, were and perhaps still are afraid of our own shadow. We don't want to make waves. We were told we have to fit in. We were trained from the first day we went to school to stand in line, to wear a uniform, to be like everybody else. What do you want the neighbors to think? We seek approval because no one taught us that we are good enough just the way we are. In fact, we're going to see in just a moment, and the theme that's going to permeate a lot of what we do over the next few weeks is we are powerful beyond comprehension. We just don't know it. We haven't learned to tap into it. It's been beaten out of us since we were born. We are, in fact, spiritual beings who have manifested into this physical universe. And the soul is uniquely us. We have the ability to tap into infinite intelligence. In fact, some say we are a piece of God, a spark, an extension. Some say that the I that is inside your earth suit, your physical body, is really an extension of God, and that we have the ability to tap into source energy. Call it God, call it source energy, call it the universe, call it whatever you like, but it exists, and it is powerful beyond your comprehension, and so are you. But once again, our ability to tap into this higher self, this being that exists, has been suppressed. It's been beat out of us. And our conscious and subconscious brains keep protecting us from things that it doesn't understand. We're going to look at our brain in just a moment. But we have the ability to do enormous things, each and every one of us. We just have to find it. So the power of thought. Thoughts are things. They vibrate. They have energy. And in fact, in a moment, we're going to see, I'm going to take you somewhere where we're just going to look down the rabbit hole. We're not going to go in there today. But it is quite possible that there is nothing except thought. Now, that's an amazing statement. Let me come to it in a minute. It is the nature of thought to try and materialize into its physical equivalent. This from John Kehoe, Mind Powered to the 21st Century, which, by the way, is an extremely good book about the thought processes. There is sufficient evidence to indicate unequivocally that the mind can and does directly affect physical reality. Now, this may seem pretty amazing. But in fact, there is some suggestion that at the most fundamental level, thought is all there is. If I'm going to peer into a rabbit hole right now, but I'm not going to take you in there today. But if I put you under a sufficiently powerful microscope, there's nothing there. If I look at any solid body, there's nothing there. It's mostly space. If you look out at night at the universe, at the stars, you see a lot of space with a few specks of light in between. That's what you see when you look at a solid object. Now, we used to think that solid objects were, well, solid. But then we found out, well, no, they're just structures. They have electrons and protons and neutrons and things. But then we look deeper and deeper into the nucleus of an atom, and we find out, well, there's nothing there. It's just space. And we find out there's more fundamental particles. There's quarks. There's other things, bosons, and da. And we look deeper into them, and we find out there's nothing there. It's space. And the deeper you look, the more you understand that there's nothing there. It's just space. And it has been suggested that at the most fundamental level, thought, energy, packets of energy, thought is all there is. And then you ask yourself, well, how can I see a physical structure? How can I feel it? It's all in the vibration of these particles and the frequency that they're vibrating at. And these particles that don't even behave like particles. They sometimes behave like particles. They sometimes behave like waves. So people ask the question, if a tree falls in the forest and there's nobody there to see it, or did it make a sound? If there's nobody there to see it, there's no forest to see. Now, what did I mean by that? What we know, and by the way, I am qualified in quantum mechanics. For those of you who don't know much about my background, I do know, never mind, we'll leave it at that. But what we know from a quantum mechanical viewpoint, and this was the thesis of the movie, the point of the movie, what the bleep do we know anyhow, is that until an observer observes something, there's nothing to observe. There's this thing called wave-particle duality. Particles don't sit still. They're a probability field. It might be here, it might be there, it might be somewhere else. Until somebody observes it, it's not there. So at the most fundamental level, thought may be all there is. Contemplate that for a moment. Let's go and look at our brain. What does our brain expect? We respond to what our brain expects. It acts like a filing cabinet, and it accesses stored data. If you've been told over and over and over and over again that something doesn't work, we don't do that, well, that's not for us, that's for those other people, rich people did something shady to get their money, money doesn't grow on trees, whatever it is, your brain protects us. It protects you from yourself. The minute you begin to think about going out and doing something new, different, your brain goes to the filing cabinet, it pulls up a file from the past and says, well, don't do that, that's dangerous, that doesn't work. It's like walking out our metaphorical door after we've been told hundreds of thousands of times, don't step out there, you might float off the planet. Your brain would keep you from stepping out there. It would argue with you. We have to shut it up, and we have to make it go away if we want to succeed. A couple of really interesting places to go. Dr. Joe Dispenza, there's a TED Talk, and I put the link there, and I know you probably can't copy the link and you can't click it, but there is a link. It's a really interesting TED Talk. It's only about 20 minutes long, like all TED Talks, about the brain and how it functions. Fascinating. He's got a lot of books too, and there's a fascinating book called "We Are the Placebo," and I'm going to tell you that I haven't read the book, but Bob has. He's on the webinar today. But it's a really interesting book about the power of our brain and the mind-body connection that we're able to make. But I'm getting a little bit off course here, so let me pull us back. Let's get back to the law of attraction. It requires three things to work for. It requires three things to work properly for us. The first thing it requires is we got to know what we want. The second thing it requires is we got to believe that we want is possible, and not just possible, but possible for us. And I'm going to come back to that statement in the first paragraph. We have to have a knowing. It has to be an absolute knowing with no doubt that it is possible for us, that what we want is coming. By some of the people that are good at this stuff, they tell us that the universe creates for us what we want the minute we think about it. As soon as we put the thought out there, the universe goes to work for us, and it's creating the thing that we want. The question is, if it's creating it, why can't we see it? How can we get to it? And that's part of what Susan Shearer Young's book, How to Allow, is all about. How to allow the universe to bring the things to you that you want, that are already there waiting for you. And what blocks us? I just heard my computer make a funny noise. It might be deciding to reboot itself. But we have to act in such a way to remove the impediments. And so let's look at each one of these three things, shall we? Bill, are you still there? Is everybody still seeing and hearing everything?
I can see the presentation just fine. I cannot see the chat, though.
That's strange. Okay, so, well, let's just hope everybody else, let me just hope everybody else can see it. So, from Jack Canfield's book, The Success Principles, How to Get from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. The indispensable first step in getting what you want is to decide what you want. And that actually is a quote from a fellow named Ben Stein, and it's on page 25 of John's book. Most people don't know what they want. Very few of us were ever taught to think creatively or to design a future for ourselves. Once again, we were taught from early age to just do what we're told, stand in line, wear a uniform, and grow up, go to work, get a job. Mostly we were told to do what we're told to do. And didn't you hear what I told you to do? Do what you're told. So we got to believe we can achieve it. From Art Williams, the #1 problem that keeps people from winning in the United States today is lack of belief in themselves. From Napoleon Hill, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. From Jack Canfield, in fact, the mind is such a powerful instrument, it can deliver to you literally everything you want. But you have to believe that what you want is possible. And from Len Mooney, you must believe it is possible for you. Not just possible, because other people have done it. So you know it's possible. But is it possible for you? And once again, you have to have a knowing that, and there's no doubt that it's possible and that you can achieve it. And of course, action is the key. When we ask for something, the universe will deliver us the means to acquire it. Now, I've often used this example. I want a new RV. So I can sit on my desk, on my deck, staring at the Pacific Ocean and wait for the universe to deliver my RV. Now, I don't think it's going to drive it onto my deck. Now, Abraham teaches that if we could get vibrationally aligned with what we want, it would be much easier to manifest it. Abraham emphasizes vibrational alignment in the thought process more than the action step. If we, and I suppose that it's true that if we could get absolutely vibrationally aligned with our desires, manifestation gets easier. For most of us, that's not hard. That's not easy. It's not possible for us to get absolutely vibrationally aligned. But if we get in the vicinity, we can manifest what we want. And what does all that mean? The starting point is a vision. And we're going to wrap this up for today in just a couple of 4 minutes. We got to start with a vision. And this is really where we're going to pick up next week. We're going to start with a vision. I'm going to give you a homework assignment in a moment. So let me just blast you a couple of things here. It's often been said that the pain pushes you until your vision pulls you. Without a powerful vision to pull you through the tough times, you will throw up your hands in frustration and quit. And this is where this knowing comes in. You need to craft a compelling vision that will be powerful and pull you through the tough times. You need to have a knowing that what you want is available to you so that you don't quit when the universe throws some resistance at you and tests you, and it will test you. Your vision's bigger than your why. It's not why do I want to do this? It's something much bigger than that. It's a legacy you want to leave for your family, your children, your grandchildren. It's the impact you want to have on planet Earth. It's the higher self that you want to become. And there is a worksheet which you can print called the Vision Worksheet, and I have already uploaded it in the Lunch with Len Facebook group. And the worksheet is designed to just help you think through some of the major areas of forming a vision of what your life is like. And the reality is, without that vision, nothing else is going to work. It doesn't happen. You can't get there. It's like jumping on a sailboat and leaving shore without knowing where you want to go. Well, it's not going to work real well. And we want to align our vision with core values, our major life purpose, and sync everything up. And we'll spend more time as we jump into vision next week. We'll spend more time focusing in on some of these things. And we are going to do a core values exercise, and we're going to do a major life purpose exercise. And we're not going to do all of that next week, but over the next 3 weeks, those are some of the areas we're going to be doing. So where are we going with this series? We're going to look at the vision. We're going to look at harnessing that power within you. We're going to look at defining your core values, your major life purpose. We're going to look at overcoming fear, beating procrastination, and that's really just for openers. That's really the superficial, the first few topics, and we're going to go much deeper into some of the stuff. And yeah, I have a homework assignment for you. I'm going to ask you to spend some time this week exploring what is your vision for yourself in, say, 3 to 5 years. Write it down. Print that vision worksheet out of the Lunch with Len group and write it down. And ask yourself the following question. What excites you? What would get you out of bed in the morning, every morning, even if you weren't getting paid to do it, because you love it so much that you would be anxious to get started? Every PowerPoint presentation has got to have one word misspelled at least. So the question really is, what does it take to ignite that burning desire in you? What is it that you would go after with such enthusiasm that you would become unstoppable? And I'm going to just say, I told you these aren't going to be selling webinars. I'm not going to sell, but I will just simply point out that the vision workshop that I did last year, which was very well received, and a number of people got it, and it was well received anyhow, is out there at lenmooney.com/vision. It's still available, and I've slashed the price in half for anyone who's interested in taking a look at it. So it's there. You can look it up if you want. That's all. That's where we're going to stop today. So close this. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Why stop sharing up twice? I want to make sure I click the correct button. Okay. Stop sharing is up twice. Great. All right. I see comments. My computer rebooted itself. Mine does that too sometimes. That's it for today. Alice in Wonderland, listening to, I think of Alice in Wonderland, the caterpillar. Yeah, great. All right, that's it for today. Let me know from your viewpoint. I guess the way I'll know the value of this is I'll see who shows up next week. But next week we're going to just keep right on going into vision and into some of these other areas, and we're going to keep trucking. It's also my intention to have guest speakers. So even though Susan Sherry Young is coming to Lunch with Len on Thursday, I'm going to see if I can get her to come on to one of these Saturday webinars a few weeks out from now. And several other people, Jeanette Ma, I have several people in mind that will help us fill in some of the blanks and the holes of some of this material. So, was Bill's phone that buzzed, not your computer. Okay. I hope you folks, if anyone who needs to drop off, just go ahead. When I end the webinar, the chat disappears. Yeah, you tell your granddaughter. So I just want to read some of the chat. So anyone who feels the need to drop off, just go ahead. I'm just reading Don this. All right. At any rate, I hope you got value. That's all for today. And As a Man Thinketh is a great book, Chris. And yeah, Abraham is awesome too. I'm going to stop the broadcast unless there's any questions out there. Bill, thanks for coming over and making sure that everybody can see everything. And we'll pick it up next week.
Okay.
Bye for now.